welcome to Fight News Now Extra. My name is John Pollock, and what a packed day of news to chat about with John Ramdeen and Robin Black. We're going to run through the highlights of UFC 181 from this past weekend, including a new champion crowned and the UFC's big announcement of a former professional wrestler who is coming to the organization in 2015. Robbie Lawler is your new UFC welterweight champion, taking a split decision over Johnny Hendricks. For most scoring the fight, it came down to how you scored the ultra-close fourth round, with Lawler taking rounds 1 and 5 and Hendricks 2 and 3 with little debate. The fifth round saw a tired Hendricks simply try to tie up Lawler against the cage and led to a burst of energy from Lawler in the final 30 seconds to clinch the round. Anthony Pettis made the first defense of his lightweight title 16 months after winning the championship from Benson Henderson, and also became the first fighter to ever stop Gilbert Melendez after catching him with a guillotine choke and mounting him with the guillotine at 1:53 of the second round. Melendez said the speed was the difference and noticed it throughout the fight, but it was Melendez who did a very good job of closing the distance and pressuring Pettis throughout the first round before he was caught in round 2. Travis Brown responded well with his first camp under Edmond Tarverdian, stopping Brendan Schaub in the opening round of their heavyweight contest on Saturday night. After standing for the first 2 minutes, Schaub then went for the takedown, and then it was a right uppercut that landed for Brown, who proceeded to mount and eventually stop Schaub with strikes. And the biggest news coming out of UFC 181 was the announcement of the signing of former pro wrestler Phil Brooks, better known as CM Punk. The news was made during the broadcast, with Brooks appearing with Joe Rogan. He is going to train for approximately 6 months and then make his UFC debut, tentatively in the middleweight division, and said talks with the UFC have been ongoing since February and were sped up once his settlement with the WWE was reached on October the 26th. And I'm here with John Ramdeen and Robin Black, coming off of UFC 181 on Saturday night. I guess let's start with the hot topic of Michelle Waterson losing her atomweight championship. Erica Tabercio. CM Punk signing with the UFC. We talked about this on Friday as a hypothetical. Now it is a reality. He will tentatively fight in 2015. And I say tentatively because I'm very curious if this guy's body can hold up in a fight camp. He's 36 years old, a litany of injuries, of concussions. And Robin, let's start with you. I mean, your thoughts here on CM Punk, who certainly has some training, but overall you have to assess him closer to a beginner level.
Yeah, he's a hobbyist. And I think I have more insight into what he's going through personally than probably anybody. I was a 38-year-old guy who had never fought before. I had a black belt in Taekwondo and I've been training jiu-jitsu, but I never fought before. I was driven to do it because I love the sport. I was doing it also to learn enough about it to really do this job. And people hated me, they made fun of me, they wanted me to lose. Everybody called me out, but I fought at the lowest level. This is a guy, so I get it from his point of view. I get it and I support him. But we're talking about a 36, in human history, never has a guy with no competitive athletic background ever been a good quality pro at anything. If Jay-Z wanted to play on the Detroit Pistons, would Detroit go, yeah, we got to make him point guard because he's going to make us $1 billion? It doesn't make sense from that point of view for me.
However, at the same time, we all know that CM Punk will bring eyeballs to the UFC. It was the whole way the promo went down seemed very strange to me. And you imagine to yourself that CM Punk knew what it took to get through Ring of Honor and to be a huge star in the WWE. You have to expect he would know that there's the same type of path that would lead him to greatness in the UFC. For a fan to come out and say, yeah, I've been training Kempo Karate, I don't know which camp I'm going to be training with, I'm not sure what weight class. If that is the case, this guy is a moron to be stepping inside of the octagon. I just am not buying it. I think it's misdirection. You don't know what he's been doing. I don't know. You don't know what he's been doing over the last number of years.
We know he's been healing surgeries, and we know he's been working 300 days a year.
That's true, but at the same time, during his downtime, just like you did, you told me that you went and trained jiu-jitsu 2 times a day in preparation. CM Punk has the money. He can be doing those things.
I'll tell you one thing. It took me 5 years to figure out the fact, and I trained harder than any. Ask the guys I trained with after Mark Hominick, I was working the hardest in the gym. And that's no disrespect, and that's not every day, and I'm certainly not trying to brag. But I was literally driven with every ounce of my being to try to be great. And after 5 years of that, it took 5 or 6 or 7 years to realize you cannot do it. You cannot be at a level. In working all that hard, I got the crap kicked out of me every day. I did it for years. I got embarrassed and made fun of, and I failed, and I did all those things. And in doing so, at the end, I realized just like people told me, it cannot be done. You're too old and you don't have the skills to do it. If I wanted to play in the NFL, if I wanted to play in the NHL, if I wanted to play Major League Baseball, or if I wanted to be a high-level UFC fighter, just being super driven and being around good people isn't going to do it.
Here's the other point, is the fact that they're making it absolutely clear. This guy is not being thrown in with a top 10 middleweight, with a top 20 middleweight. He will be in there with a guy probably at best with 3 pro fights on his record.
We've seen it. The UFC accepts guys now that are from tough China, that are from tough Latin America, that are 1-0, that are
So what you have now is a wide scale in the UFC.
Exactly.
The other point to this right now is I think you go back 3-4 years, I don't think the UFC does this deal.
Never.
But I think all of us...
They did it with James Toney.
James Toney at
Was
least
a
had a fighting
professional
background.
world champion,
But, I mean,
But it's not the same thing. You have to, for James Toney to come in there and believe that he would be competitive in the world of mixed martial arts is insane.
Yeah, and it's insane for this stuntman to think the same thing.
But the only thing is,
really
for CM Punk, we know that he's a fan of this, so you'd expect by him being around Henry and Huron Gracie, Brendan Schaub trains there, he's surrounded by these guys.
Yeah, I was too.
Right.
I was too, and they did exactly what these guys are doing. They patted me on the head and they said, "Good for you for working so hard." And then when I wasn't around, they're like, "This guy's gonna get killed," and that's what's going on.
Let me ask you, John. You're Dana White right now, and I'm CM Punk coming to you and saying, "Listen, I have this desire to fight, and if you say no, I'm going to have to go to Bellator." You're doing bad business by turning me away at this point.
It
That's
depends.
the landscape.
No, it depends. It depends on what you want to do. You want to prove to the world that you're the #1 mixed martial arts promotion. It's the highest level of MMA. You go and see this guy roll. Okay, I'm going to bring in a couple of guys. I want to see you work pads.
John,
I want to see
no
you
one's
spar.
disputing.
There's no way he can fight. So I agree with Pollock from a business standpoint. That's why it's happening. From a business standpoint, you got to do it. But it is weird, man. It's like, yeah, you can. I said it's impossible. It is possible to get good enough to win against 1-0 guys. I won 2 of my first 4 fights. I lost a few and I won a couple. You can do it at the lowest level. If they're willing to take this guy and give him the lowest level guys, and people don't know the difference, they make a bunch of money. You know, if you're fighting that pure sport versus entertainment, this is another loss for pure sport.
Well, the fact is, there are tons of fans that were fans that are not watching regularly anymore, and the UFC is doing something. You can categorize it as a stunt, whatever. It's an attempt to get some of those lapsed fans back.
However, let's just say CM Punk goes in against a 1-0 guy or a debuting guy and gets himself knocked out. Does it tarnish his reputation?
To some, it will. To others, I think it's very hard. It's all hypotheticals.
And my last thought is, I get why he's doing it, and I support his drive to do it, because I did exactly the same thing, and it's a beautiful thing to go and strive for that. And if he loses or wins, he'll still have gone and done a beautiful thing for himself.
And Robbie Lawler won the welterweight championship. More Fight News Now Extra is coming your way.